Championship playoffs, Sunderland won. Coventry City won. Sunderland won 3-2 on Ag. Dan Ballard's 120th minute winner sent the Stadium of Light into orbit. Just absolutely incredible.
It's an incredible leap of a header.
Yeah.
Like his legs were in a very weird position. It made it look like he jumped way, way harder than he had.
Yes.
Well, it was like he was doing some kind of star
to.
jump.
Yeah.
But he also collapsed his body into like a little ball and headed it in off the bar.
It was like a folded deck chair, wasn't it?
Very much like a folded deck chair. Exactly
Even
like
with
that.
the shirt, actually.
Made it look like that. Speaking of the shirt, he really struggled to get the shirt off.
Yeah, that was amazing.
At one point, I just thought, this is a massive moment for him. It's a massive moment for Sunderland. I don't think this shirt's coming off.
No, yeah.
What you've got...
He's never getting out of that.
It was a problem with the technique, and allow me to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
Right, if you are wearing a shirt that is tight, you cannot do it, and watch what I'm doing here, people watching the video on YouTube, you cannot do it from the collar.
Yeah.
Because it sticks. If you want to take your shirt off quick, you've got to do it down there. And pull over like that. If it's really tight, you'll never get it off, Dan Ballard. So if you're going to plan on doing the same thing in the playoff final, you need to adjust your technique. And I am available if you want me to show you how to take your top off.
Every shirt I own is tight at the moment, and I can confirm that is true.
You can't do it from the collar, Marcus.
No.
You've got to do it from down there.
You've got to be careful as well, because I was worried that he would miss the best bit of the celebration.
Because his head was stuck in his shirt.
Indeed. I remember...
Just run into the crowd.
Well, I remember, as you might fondly, Jim, Alan Nielsen, who scored the winning goal for Spurs in the 1999 League Cup final in the last minute. And when he celebrated, he ran over and he flipped his top over his head. And then all the players mobbed him. And he said later, well, the problem with that is I then was completely blinded and I couldn't see those like, what would it be, sort of 10 to 20 seconds or
so
whatever.
He's got no memory
absolute
of it.
Pandemonium, like the best bit when the goal goes in and everyone just goes crazy. So by the time he put his shirt down, obviously there's still celebration. It was still great. He said, I kind of missed it. So you've got to be careful, everybody.
But speaking of the pandemonium, we could probably rank the limbs that you get in football, limbs being the wild celebrations in the crowd. I don't think there's anything quite like playoff limbs.
Playoff limbs are the best limbs.
Because there's so much on the line. And those scenes yesterday, particularly when the camera pans back, when Ballard eventually gets his shirt off and everyone's going mad. And you go back through the photos and it's like people turning to each other, hugging strangers. There's a woman in one of the first shots where I think he's just got his shirt off and he's running away to the corner flag. And she's just screaming down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah.
You can't quite believe it. It was such a good atmosphere, even pre-game as well.
Yeah, I mean, more than 46,500 tickets were sold for the game, the most for a championship game not played at Wembley since 2017, which shows you. The playoff final, obviously, I would say this because I don't know otherwise. I think it's the best game to win in football, not having seen my team win a cup.
Well, it was COVID during it.
But they also beat Villa, before that. But
it's a massive game.
Because it's not like, we've done it. Oh, right, and we've done it, and now this massive journey is just around the corner.
And also, even
this is not the playoff final. We stress, we know.
But even when you take the prize out of it, or the prize of promotion out of it, it's almost like the season has a cup final. For those two teams.
Yes, exactly.
So winning that is even separately from the promotion is a really euphoric end to the journey of any season.
Sunderland haven't done it yet, though.
No, of course not. Yeah,
and it's important to remember it's one of the worst games to lose.
Well, absolutely.
If not the worst.
As Frank Lampard himself knows, and to have this when Coventry, he very much thought they were the better side over the two legs. I think, Kevin Phillips, ex-Sunderland man, did say that Sunderland got away with it.
The first leg was a gift from Coventry. It was a shame.
And you look at the moments, there's that, and then Haji Wright at the end of the 90 minutes in this game had a chance.
Quite a tough chance. A lot of people have acted as if that was an absolute sitter. I think that's a little bit harsh.
I do agree with you. It was a chance, but yes, Jim, it wasn't a tap in at the back post that he screwed wide or something.
I got a reprimand from a Sunderland fan at the Newcastle show saying to me, "You talked about Sunderland, you're slagging them off because they're in a terrible run of form going into the playoffs, but trust me, they've been resting their players. It's all going to work out fine, and we're going to get promoted." And I said, "Okay, fair enough. I didn't know that. I've taken it on the chin."
Yeah.
And so far, he's been right.
Yeah, I fancied Coventry to do it, but they didn't. We were so close to penalties that I think one of the teams brought on somebody to take a penalty quite clearly.
The goal...
Ballard had other ideas.
The goal was so late that Coventry couldn't even... I mean, they played the ball back to the keeper to launch it forward, and he didn't even get a chance to get it forward.
Yeah.
Like it was that late.
Yeah, it's a sickener, absolute sickener.
But I think Coventry were definitely the better side in this second leg. I mean,
you do have to feel for Coventry, considering what happened last time round when they were so close, and then when Lampard takes over, they were in 17th. He's got them going, and here they are, and again they'll feel that they were the better side over these 2 legs. And should have gone through, and then you got a chance. But
they're in a great position for next season, but it's not going to feel like that for a while, is it?
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, are they in a great position in terms of if they keep the squad? But as Lampard himself said, they were going up against the teams with the parachute payments. That'll still be the case. It's very difficult for a side,
fair,
who haven't come down and don't have that money. So, yeah, I mean, it would be great to see Coventry back in the Premier League. For those of us who remember them. They'll have to go again. But, we've seen teams do that. And, Leeds United, okay, a little bit different, as I say, with those payments. But they can do it.
Well, so Sunderland got knocked out in the semi-final of Championship playoffs a couple of seasons ago as well. So they've come back and come again.
And they're also playing Sheffield United, who, let's be honest, don't have the best relationship with the playoffs, do they?
No.
Yeah.
I would not like to see Chris Wilder back in the Premier League. I make that very, very clear. So Sunderland needs to do it for the rest of us.
What if Sheffield
I'd like to see them win the playoff promotion and him just chow down on a sandwich in the post-match.
What, and then get sacked? Take it away from him and give it to somebody else. That's who they face. And so Sheffield United, their 6-0 aggregate win over Bristol City was the biggest in history in the Championship playoffs. So they face a formidable opponent who got a very impressive points tally, which some seasons that would be enough to win the division, let alone go up in the top 2. So intriguing final, but two huge clubs. In English football. You're back in the Ramble fan who you chatted to, Sunderland.
Well, I just think he seemed very confident, and he did give an explanation as to why they had essentially wrapped their hand in the last 5 games of the season. And I mean, but if you're being completely even-handed about it, you'd say, I mean, they've snuck past Coventry there.
Yes.
It's not been like, I mean, Sheffield United are miles better than Bristol City, right?
Yeah.
20-odd points better than them in the league. They've destroyed them both home and away.
Yep.
Sunderland have not done that to Coventry.
And
so
they're
going to have to
had
find
a gift, haven't they?
Yeah, in the first leg. So they're going to have to find something. I'd much prefer Sunderland. I've got no problem with Sheffield United fans, although they won't take it this way when they hear this, but I would much prefer Sunderland to be promoted. I just think it's a nice end to the journey, given what they've been through as well.
Yeah.
We all remember the Sunderland Slot Die thing.
The anti-Piff posse.
Yeah, just by definition, they're the anti-Piff posse.
Indeed, yeah.
If they're bought out by Amnesty International, that'd be very interesting.
There you go.
That'd be great. they could do that as a sponsor next season if they got promoted. But
we should all have a whip round for that.
Yeah. But it is worth remembering that these not the case in Sheffield United versus Bristol City, but these playoffs can be very, very fine margins. So. We'll see.
We certainly will.
But anyway, enjoy your moment.
Enjoy. You get more analysis ahead of the Championship playoff final from our friends over at the Second Tier. Just search for Second Tier Podcast wherever you get your pods to listen. Now then, let's turn to some more exotic places. Ancelotti.
More exotic than Sunderland and Coventry. Brazil. Is that what you're going to say?
Do you disagree with that?
Disrespectful. Depends what part of Brazil. And depends what part of Sunderland.
You haven't even been to Sunderland.
No, I haven't. To be fair.
Okay.
Yeah. Have I been to Coventry? Hope not. Can't think I have.
And yet I'm the disrespectful one. Carlo Ancelotti has been confirmed as the head coach of Brazil. My goodness. What a bunch of suckers they are, appointing a foreign manager. The Brazilian
the death of Brazilian football.
The Brazilian Football Confed, the CBF, said this is a landmark moment which sees the coming together of 2 icons, the only 5-time FIFA World Cup champions and a coach with an unmatched record across Europe's elite competitions.
Yeah.
Now, he'll become Brazil's first permanent foreign coach, because one for the heads they have had, I think it's 3 foreign coaches. There was I think a Uruguayan chap was
over
asked,
100 years ago though, right?
2 of them were over 100 years ago. I think there was an Argentinian guy, believe it or not. But I mean, the Uruguayan chap was asked to manage 2 exhibition matches. You know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. So you can't. Depends how you want to do it. But certainly this year, it's the first foreign coach.
Oh, there was a Portuguese coach in 1944 for 2 games.
Oh, was it
two friendly matches against Uruguay.
There you go.
And there was a Uruguayan guy way back in the day,
way
1925.
back. Yeah.
and there's been a Argentinian.
There you go. You see,
for one game in 1965 because he was currently managing Palmeiras at that point, and there was a friendly match against Uruguay, and he took it for a game.
Which is why you got to say permanent manager, because I don't want to disrespect those three fellas.
But, you know when England took Sven,
don't remember
first time. And there was like a big amount of soul searching in England about it, and what it meant, and how people suggested that we had gifted the world this sport, and so we're on our absolute knees by getting Sven in. This doesn't feel like that, does it?
Yeah, but it's a very different circumstances, though.
No, it is. It is on it is on one level, but it's not on another. And I'll tell you why. It's on one level because it makes it feel like they've gone after one of the world's most decorated coaches, one of the greatest coaches of all time. And it'll also be quite good, right? Yeah. But on the other hand, Marcus, it is worth pointing out, they are searching for a World Cup win, and they have been for quite a long time, and they're running out of options in which to do so. And the last coach they had wasn't that good, and no one's really brought them that close to it for a while. So I do think there's a similar energy there.
Yeah, I would
agree. It feels
different. I mean, they've not won the Copa America since 2019, which obviously, in a sense, doesn't sound like that long. But this is Brazil we're talking about, though, isn't it? You know, and they've been very, very successful in that competition. So there is a sense that they've used all the pull they can get to get an absolute heavyweight. It feels like kind of a last throw of the dice where they've used their status as powerfully as they can and just gone, right, just get the best person available. He doesn't have to be from Brazil. And it's a very interesting job for Ancelotti in terms of logistics, isn't it? Because we often talk about international football being very, very different from club football in terms of the workload and the scheduling. But actually, when you look at the size of Brazil and the domestic leagues, and you look at the size of the Brazilian diaspora around the world, that it is such a full-on job. That is, it is going to be taking the training away from it. Obviously, it's going to be like a club job.
I'll be
keeping track of everyone.
I'll be sending people out all over the place while I'm maxing it up in Rio.
Yeah,
that's what I'll be doing. Oh yeah, big time.
Well, you'd have a few kind of journeys for yourself, wouldn't you? You'd pick and choose
the ones I wanted.
Go.
Yeah, the ones I wanted. I would.
So you delegate.
Yeah.
You off to see Anthony in person?
Absolutely not. Although Seville's a lovely part of the world.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's playing well.
Carlo's probably been to Seville quite a few times.
You just missed that too readily there.
Well, yeah, he is playing well.
He could be a big player for them.
He could be a big player for them, Marcus. But the question I was asked is if I'm travelling to Betis from Brazil to go and see Anthony. And the answer, upon reflection, is still absolutely not.
Carlo Ancelotti's not going to live in Brazil, is he?
I mean,
I think he'll have a place in Brazil.
Opportunity.
That's not what I said.
Yeah, he'll have a place in Brazil.
I'm sure he will.
You know, you said at the start.
There's always a place in Brazil for Carlo.
Yeah.
There's every country.
For now, there it goes.
Yes.
You know, you said at the start about like, this doesn't feel particularly outlandish. And I think because even the way that the Brazilian Federation have framed it, it feels more like a marketing crossover.
Yeah, it's absolutely right.
Like a collab.
Yeah. I agree with that, because I think that
100%.
As Jim already stated, they are really kind of struggling by their own standards. Only once have they gone past the quarter-final, if I'm right in saying that, since their World Cup win in 2002.
And it's a big crisis of identity, isn't it?
Well, it is. And also, their noisy neighbours are currently the world champions. So
Good point.
You look at it like that, and they have tried. But also as well, the best players, the best coaches are operating in Europe and have been for quite some time. Back in those days, even in the early noughties, when they did win the World Cup, it wasn't as pronounced as it was now, believe it or not. And I think, as you say, Vish, this doesn't feel like, come and save us. It's kind of like, we're the big boys, okay? We currently don't have anybody who's maybe on our level, who's on our level. And you frame it like that, and it can be quite exciting. I don't know what the word is on the streets of Brazil, by the way. There might be a lot of people doing their absolute nuts in thinking this is absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
The media might be saying that as well. We are going on the statement right now of the people who have hired him. So, of course they're not going to go, it's a bit of a shame that we don't have our own man, but anyway, this bloke will do.
I'd also add in there that in talking about Argentina and looking at it through the lens of that, if you look at the qualification for next year's World Cup, Argentina have blown Brazil to bits.
Oh, they have.
They beat them 4-1. They beat them 1-0 in Brazil. Yeah. And they're miles ahead of them. Look, realistically, you have to finish outside the top 6 to not qualify for South American qualifiers. They're going to qualify.
Yeah, they're currently fourth.
But they've not really been very good.
They've lost 5 out of 14 games.
Yeah,
I think.
They have.
And also as well, all eyes are always on the Brazilian national team, of course. And I think it's just whether that's another tiny piece of it, I don't know. But it's like, just don't mess this up. Because I think, as Luke's saying, in terms of qualification, in terms of the squad of players they have, it's a decent squad. Of course, we can start naming a few players, but it's not as good on paper as maybe squads gone by. Neymar, who is the top scorer in their history and so on, a little bit older and blah, 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 blah. I just think you can't have another World Cup where it's kind of a bit of a damp squib for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that they've been suffering the same sort of crisis for a long time, which is maybe why they've pivoted to something very, very different. And we hear about the talent drain a lot from Brazil about, obviously the best players leave for Europe young, but that is surely as extreme as it can possibly get now.
Yeah.
You get players like Endrick, Estevão Willian, who's went to Chelsea a little while ago, and even Vinicius moved to Madrid when he's really, really young. And we're talking about 15-year-olds now.
Well,
making
Neymar,
big moves.
Neymar, it was said that actually held on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Was he 22? I think, if I remember correctly, and that was seen as he hung around a bit.
Yeah. But now, though, I think there's a more extreme example of it where we're just seeing them leave as teenagers. So they don't even they barely make a first team appearance in Brazil before they've gone over to Europe. So I mean that is a problem, isn't it?
Well, it is.
I think also it helps that Carlo has dealt with a lot of Brazilian players during his club career and would know exactly the kind of pressure that they'll be under and the demands on them off the field as well. And I think having someone from the outside who is also sensitive to that is vitally important, because sometimes you need an outside head to be like, look, this is a bit much. And also, I need to protect the players from this.
Also on that, he won't have Kylian Mbappe in the side, making it a bit unbalanced as well.
Exactly. So, everyone's on free kicks. Here we go.
Vinicius Junior's thinking, oh, yes. Well, but good news, though, for Ancelotti is that the 3 matches he still has in charge of Real Madrid, one of them is away to Sevilla.
So we can have a little look.
So we can have a little look and go to the place and he can give us our thoughts.
Yeah.
I could come here for a weekend.
I mean, speaking ahead of tonight's game against Real Mallorca, Ancelotti said, if I didn't have the press conference today, it would be fantastic. Mourinho-esque, isn't it? Eventually, Real Madrid get to everybody, I suppose.
He wasn't happy about the announcement, was he?
No, he wasn't, no. There are things that I can't explain right now because I'm at Madrid and I want to respect the shirt. I never had problems with Real Madrid and never will have problems. It's a club that lives dearly in my heart. But everything in life has a date to end. This season will almost certainly be the first one of 4 seasons without a trophy. Yeah. If you don't count the intercontinental business.
But he has had 15 trophies there over the 2 spells, which is quite amazing, isn't it? Like to even get a shot at that many trophies at Real Madrid, like a lot of managers don't even manage that because it's a sort of travelator when it comes to success. So to keep the only way to get a shot at winning a trophy is to have previously won a trophy there. So it speaks to the kind of all-time great candidacy that Ancelotti has, that he's achieved so much in that pressure cooker environment.
Indeed, and he'll be replaced by Xabi Alonso. What do you think of that, Vish?
Who goes straight into the Club World Cup, which is unprecedented, right? No one's ever taken a team in this tournament to start with, let alone someone who's had like a week of training.
I think it's really quite smart. I mean, I say that almost talking about Real Madrid like a normal club, but someone who's one of the sought-after managers going, and the fact that he held on for that extra year at Bayer Leverkusen when there was all that talk about him taking over from Klopp at Liverpool. I wonder if he knew this was in the pipeline, or maybe it feels like actually this is a bit more, having won the Bundesliga, and they still had a decent season this time around, but maybe there was a sense that like, actually, this is you should go when you're hot, even though he's obviously got time on his side. But
when you're ready as well, though.
Yeah, and I think he's, you see the way that he deals with the media, which is obviously a huge part of being Real Madrid manager. He obviously played for them. He knows this. He knows the landscape inside and out. And it's kind of hard to look. It's kind of hard to see the flaws at this juncture of having him in as manager. The only thing you would say is that he's going from a team to a set of individuals.
Yeah, and I think it's I actually think it's a big inflection point for Real Madrid at the moment, and this is a really big challenge. And I'll tell you why, because you go into the Club World Cup. I can understand why some people might think it's a bit of a free hit, get a chance to look at the players, doesn't really matter. I think it kind of does matter for Real Madrid as a team who pride themselves on winning all these amazing trophies. This is something that has clearly been designed by FIFA to rival the Champions League and to rival the World Cup. And it's clearly not going to do that at the moment, but I mean, it may do in future. But I think it is a big tournament. Well,
because they're a huge scalp. So the last thing they'll want is, I don't know, Boca Juniors or whatever going absolutely crazy because they've beaten Madrid.
Well, you don't want to, because that's what you're going to be faced with every single time you play someone is Real Madrid in the Club World Cup. Yeah. But look at what's happened this season. I mean, they've come off the back of, they just lost the Clásico, and fine, on paper they lost it narrowly, but that flattered Real Madrid. They had an absolute meltdown the Copa del Rey final. They've beaten again narrowly by Barcelona, but they're 3 players sent off and a complete lack of discipline. Like, they're not going to win the league this season. They've got knocked out the Champions League quite early by Arsenal. Fine, Arsenal did really well to beat them.
They've become comprehensively beaten.
From their point of view, it was an absolutely dreadful showing. Yeah. So I think, Ancelotti deserves all the credit he's got over the years, and clearly he's one of the greatest club managers of all time, and the move to Brazil is really interesting. But he's basically overseen an absolute meltdown this season, really. We shouldn't lose sight of that. From Real Madrid's point of view, this has not just been the fact they've not really won anything, but the way they've not won anything has been really, really poor. So I don't think Alonso goes in there with, thanks very much, I'll take it from here, cheers.
It's not an Arne Slot situation.
No, it's there's very, very big challenges ahead of him all the time. And I do think if they have a really poor showing in the Club World Cup, the pressure's going to be really high come the start of the new season. So we're not even talking about a vintage Barcelona side here. I know they narrowly missed out on the Champions League final and they're going to win the league this season, but this is not a vintage Barcelona side either.
No.
So to come off the end of a couple of narrow ones from them too, and that Clásico last week, Madrid weren't really in it.
Barcelona have beaten them 4 times this season.
Yeah.
Comfortably as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I can see why people think automatically it's a good move because Alonso's an up-and-coming young coach. He's done really well, amazing stuff at Leverkusen. But and he played for Real Madrid and he looks nice in the shirt and he's was a class act as a player. But I don't think it should be assumed that that it's all going to go swimmingly from the start.
It's a very, very different group of players and a different club. Yeah. Completely. There's almost a sort of mini culture change within that team at the moment, and they need to refresh. And apparently Ancelotti wanted that, but he couldn't quite get it. If Xabi Alonso is in charge of Real Madrid's first game in the Club World Cup, which is what they want him to be in charge of, then he'd be up against Al Hilal, and they'll have to deal with Alexander Mitrovic. So.
But he knows the club.
All eyes on that one. Coming up after this, more cost-saving measures from Jim Ratcliffe. Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And José Mourinho reveals the secret to his team selection.
I have 25 coins. I threw the coins to the air. The ones that stay on the table are the players that play. The ones that go on the floor, they go on the bench. I do it just like this. During the week, I'm having fun. I go to nightclubs every day in Istanbul, everywhere. And then when it's to choose the team, I threw the coins with the players' faces. The 11 that stay on the table are the 11 that play. It's simple.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Yeah, that was José Mourinho explaining how he picks his team selection. I think he's being sarcastic when he says he's got 25 coins and throws them in the air, and the ones that stay on the table are the players that play. He was asked about his recent team selections, of course, after Fenerbahce's 4-1 win over Istanbul Basaksehir, so an impressive victory. He hates being there.
Yeah.
He really does.
He also seeded out a story that he turned down a load of money to go somewhere else.
Saudi.
And the Fenerbahce president seems to have bought that hook, line and sinker.
Yeah.
And is just towing that line. Because I guess there's an element of it still in Turkish football that they're just delighted he's there.
Yeah.
Because he's such a big name. So they'll kind of, they'll just kind of bend over and take it from him.
Oh dear.
Even though it's a metaphor. I don't mean literally. And I wonder where this ends because there's talk of him staying for another season. I would love him to go, come back to the Premier League, but I don't think it's an option for him to do that.
Would you love that?
Leeds.
Yeah.
Leeds
by
December.
That would be amazing.
Imagine.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. I would love to because I've got no dog in the Premier League fight. I just think it's great for headlines. I know it can be a bit tedious, but it's interesting to watch. But I don't know whether that ship has sailed from now. Like Jim, you said a few months ago that he was basically circling the plug hole now, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if someone can put the plug in.
That's a better metaphor.
It is. It's a great metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I wonder if there's any option for him to come back. I mean, I hope there is, but I doubt it.
He was asked a couple of times in that same press conference, will you be here next season? And he just said, I don't understand the question.
Oh, no. He hates being there, but he loves the attention.
Of course,
yeah, it's a tricky one for him. He's thinking, I'm not going to get this anywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah,
because Turkey's like a golfish bowl for football, right?
Yeah,
so
totally,
it makes, particularly the Istanbul club, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean the trouble for them is that they're second in the league, like way above Besiktas in third. They're 20 points above them, but unfortunately for Fenerbahce, Galatasaray are 8 points above them in first. So it's not been terrible, but clearly Mourinho thought, I'm going to go there and I'm going to win the league and I'm going to ride off into the sunset.
And then fast forward a bit into the season, and there's a cartoon of him.
Yes.
Sleeping and panicking about Galatasaray after losing the derby.
Also, that would be the fourth season in a row they've come second in the Super League. So, I mean, I guess they would, from their point of view, they would bring Mourinho and might get us that another step. But he's just delivered more of the same, basically.
Yeah. Are they the Arsenal of Turkey?
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be.
Are they trying to walk it in?
Mourinho's Arsenal, then.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I can't.
No, I can't.
And I won't for your sake, Jim.
Yeah.
Well, Mourinho's former club Manchester United are continuing their preparations for the Europa League final next week. Big news, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's not a complete spoilsport. I think his reputation has suffered a bit. We've not helped. We've been
The more people have learned about him, the more his reputation has suffered.
No one really knew who he was.
Yeah, I know. And we've been quick to point out, his awfulness. Well, I think he might start to win people back round because he is planning to have a barbecue at the club's training ground instead of a bus parade if they win the Europa League final next week.
Will they eat the lowest performing player?
Yeah, is it, given how Amorim's press conferences have been, is it a barbecue or is it a roast?
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, but Vish, it'll be a barbecue with burgers and sausages.
Yeah,
that's it.
And also bring your own.
Yeah, bring your own salad.
Bring your own.
It could be a roast of Jadon Sancho, couldn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
It could be. It'll be Tesco burgers and sausages.
Do you guys want a list of people who've been stripped of their knighthoods?
Sure.
Yeah, always.
Yeah, because I think Sir Jim's going that way, isn't he?
I presume there's another Jimmy in there.
Imagine if he ran. So I'm not saying this. I want this to happen or this will likely happen. But what would Sir Jim Ratcliffe have to do to be stripped of his knighthood? If he ran Man United into liquidation,
he might get another one.
Robert Mugabe's been stripped of his honorary knighthood.
I should
2008.
I should hope so.
Benito Mussolini.
Oh my goodness.
He had an honorary one.
How did he get one in the first place?
Yeah.
This is making a mockery of this.
Sorry, how did Mugabe get one in the first place?
Former spy Anthony Blunt. He got
That's embarrassing. Yeah, that one's really
for
embarrassing.
supplying hundreds of secret documents to the Soviet Union while a wartime agent.
That is poor, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be doing that.
That's out of order.
Yeah.
All the blokes who caused essentially the financial crisis of 2008, including, do you remember Fred the Shred Goodwin?
Yes.
It's a throwback, isn't it? He got stripped as well. So Jim could find himself on that list if he carries on with this barbecue nonsense.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
I mean, he's also a major polluter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Via Ineos.
Yeah.
He is, completely. And this has got a little bit more of a connotation than perhaps we think. Because, on one level, if they win the Europa League and not going to have a bus parade, fine. They also didn't have one in 2008 because they weren't allowed to have one because I think Greater Manchester Police, when Man United won the Champions League, Greater Manchester Police said no, I think because of possibly Rangers' behaviour in Manchester, was it around that time?
The Rangers fans really poor, yeah.
Yeah, and so then they said to Man United, you can have it later in the summer, and it ended up never happening. So from Man United's point of view, the fans, it just feels very disappointing. I presume, and again, this is an assumption from me, so you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming they're not going to do this if they win because Man United will have to foot some of the policing bill and they don't want to.
I think the actual reason is that there's simply no time. So they've still got a Premier League game after the Europa League final because Villa go to Old Trafford on the 25th of May. Then straight after that, they fly to Asia for a couple of post-season matches, as everybody's doing right now.
Not pre-season, post-season.
No, post-season. Then they come back to Manchester on the 31st of May. and then a lot of the players have to go to international duty immediately.
Yeah.
So there's a logistic kind of issue with it
That's
as well.
a really interesting metaphor for the state of modern football.
It really is.
Isn't it?
I understand not having the bus parade. It's just there's something funny about going, well, we'll have a barbecue at the training ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
We're a barbecue at the training ground, presumably with a lot of staff that you wouldn't pay to go to the Europa League final anyway.
Yeah.
Half of them, I think half of them are having to be paid to go there by the players.
You're allowed a
Ruben
sausage.
Amorim's paying for some as well.
You're allowed a sausage or a burger. You can't have one of each.
No,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, who do you think's going to serve the food?
yeah.
Well, someone's got to do it, haven't they? It is expected that if Spurs win, then they will have a parade to show off the trophy.
Well, they
Which is
better
good
bloody do.
because you should, like, even Manchester United, you should celebrate these things. You're not too big to win a trophy
Yeah.
and celebrate with your own fans.
The fact that you haven't got time for a
a
celebratory
bit
bus
different,
parade
yeah.
is an absolutely dreadful metaphor for the state of modern football.
Yeah.
Man United have also cancelled their end of season awards dinner, which is a great shame.
Yeah, we'd have got some good stuff out of that.
Yeah, I think we would have done.
Yeah.
We'd have done
more money
It's not
saved.
it's not even about the leaks. There's simply too much content coming out of Manchester
I
United.
know. Think of us, for crying out loud. Ruben Amorim has paid for 30 of his Manchester United backroom staff to take their families to next week's Europa League final after being told by the club that his coaches, physios and support team would have to pay for their own tickets.
Well, that's gone against the party line, isn't it? Is he trying to get sacked?
Maybe.
Oh, yeah, just let me go after the final if you want.
Well, players have only been allocated 2 tickets each, while family members and friends will not have their travel costs covered. So it's all a bit funny at Manchester United. And they are, well, talking on the playing side of things, they're set to be reunited with Jadon Sancho this summer.
I love the way you say that.
Okay, Chelsea are reportedly ready to pay a £5 million penalty to send Sancho back to Old Trafford. That's damning, isn't it? That is about a player who a few years ago was one of the most sought-after young players in European football.
Yeah.
And now look, it's like we'd rather pay £5 million to get rid of you.
Well,
or not get rid, if you see what I mean.
We'll pay to not have you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this story actually came out in January, and the reason it came out in January it was because, I suppose it was from internally at Chelsea where they were briefing that look, we actually don't need to sign him. This is another option on the table, and I suppose it's not too surprising given he's been okay at Chelsea, but they've got plenty of other players and plenty of other options they're eyeing up. It is sad for exactly the reasons that you stated that you don't really have to go that far back to think. There was even a bit of like England clamour for him to start. That is, it's just quite sad because we are just talking about like a person here who's taken a gamble and. Yeah, it just really hasn't paid off. And he comes on now for Chelsea because he doesn't start, obviously. And you see flashes of something there. And I suppose the next decision for him would be where to go and how much to sacrifice.
How does he get back to Dortmund?
Yeah.
Because last season he played in the Champions League final.
They've pretty much ruled that one out, haven't they? But I think the difficulty for Sancho at the moment is he doesn't look like he can start anywhere. That's the problem, isn't it? Like you would think if he can go somewhere, be a nailed-on starter, it would give him the road to get back into form and to find a place and to showcase what he can do. But he just doesn't look capable of that at the moment.
No. Well, I think what I need is a reset, right? So he's out of contract at United next summer. Another year left on his deal. The deal he's on at United would be absolutely gigantic. We know that because that's just how it is there. I think he's at the age of 25, like he is now. He needs to try and assess what he actually wants out of his career because he's not going to be able to, command such a high salary in his next move. He's not going to be able to do that, right? So he needs to make sure the next move he thinks about is done very carefully. If he can, because if you look at it that way, the worst case scenario for him is another year in the wilderness at United, right? And who knows what's going to happen at United? We don't know even who's going to be manager next season, right? So things can always change around pretty quickly in football. But worst case scenario, he sits there for a year, hoovering up his money, or he's on loan somewhere else, and then he needs a reset. And off the back of that reset, he might be able to command a fairly decent salary because he won't be moving for a fee. But he needs to go somewhere where he can be nurtured, where he can play. It feels like for the whole time, basically for his whole career, all we just say is he can only play for Dortmund. Yeah. He can only play for Dortmund. There must be other clubs out there that can look after him.
Well, José Mourinho has given his approval for Fenerbahce to try and sign Jadon Sancho this summer.
There must be other clubs out there who can look after him.
But I also don't. When I say that, I don't want him to be absolved from his role in this because clearly, I understand he's found it difficult. I understand he's gone out the frying pan into the fire there between Manchester United and Chelsea. But he's still going to have had some autonomy over his own career. He's still going to be able to apply himself. He's still going to be able to sanction that move. He's not been sent to Chelsea completely against his will. And we know that because he's played whatever it is. He's played almost like 40 games or something this season, or appeared in 40 games.
But it was one of those ones where when he went to Manchester United, so many people just were like,
Yeah.
And of course, from his point of view, I
felt
get
like the Zaha thing, didn't it?
It did. I understand you're a young player and you're offered to go back to the country you're from. You're brought into one of the biggest teams in the world, or biggest clubs in the world, and it's your chance to really kind of think, right, I'll be one of the guys that helps them get back to where they are.
Yeah.
Wages are enormous. I understand all that, but it was such a funny one. And look at where we are now. All right, coming up after this, Wayne Lineker gives Arne Slot a smooch. Now, gentlemen, there's been a little bit of movement, or there's threatening to be some movement.
Marcus's market movements.
In the transfer market. Manchester City have reportedly agreed a fee in the region of 85 million boys for Bayer Leverkusen's Florian Wirtz.
Yeah, is there not some Brexit mechanism we can use to stop that happening?
Well, it's been claimed that
it?
he's staying in the Bundesliga and joining Bayern, which is his preference. So at the moment, it's a bit of a funny one at the time of recording.
Bayern.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Neither option's good there. The reporting suggests, though, that Leverkusen will want a significant chunk more.
Well, that's why they reckon
Bayern.
they can get over 100 million, don't they?
He's got another 2 years on his deal.
Yeah.
At Bayer Leverkusen, so.
Just a great player to watch. A great player to watch.
Yeah.
What are Bayern going to do with him? Him and Musiala? Leave it.
Yeah.
Man City, though, you know what Pep's like. He can play all across the front line, where he's wider in the centre, so he would fancy a bit of that.
Wirtz, I'm going to make a couple of leaps here. German.
Yes.
Yeah.
Likes bratwurst.
Mm-hmm.
Barbecue.
Yeah.
In the Manchester area.
Yeah. If you're keen,
I think
you will have to. You will have to pay for your drinks,
the only way Florian Wirtz is going to Man United is because some kind of fucking US CIA backed rendition. There's absolutely no way he's going to Man United willingly, mate. I'm afraid that ship has sailed a long, long time ago.
I've never met the man. I've no connection to him, but I feel I can speak on his behalf.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
I'd
prefer him to go to Bayern Munich just so I can ignore it.
I know what you mean.
Know in a couple of years he'll go somewhere else, and hopefully it won't be Man City.
What you got against Man City?
I just don't like them.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what I've got against Man City?
131 reasons?
Boring. Yeah. Yeah, they're just cracking on with that, are they? Just cracking on. Yeah. What I don't understand is, and it might be my ignorance. I'm sure there's plenty of Man City fans out there who tell me that it is my own ignorance, but I am going to ask the question anyway. It's been reported that Manchester City have agreed a fee with Bayer Leverkusen for Florian Wirtz, right? Yeah. Now, he might get a Bayern Munich instead, as you've already said. Yeah. But in a normal world, and I appreciate football isn't always normal, but in a normal world, if you are the representative of Florian Wirtz, one of the world's best attacking talents, your representative should be saying to them, can we please get some transparency on what's actually happening at this club around these charges that we're assured there's an imminent verdict on, which we've heard may involve some kind of massive points deduction, and it's all very well for you to offer us a load of money, but my client doesn't really want to play in the Championship next season, so can you tell us what's happening?
Yeah, that must be happening.
If that is happening, Jim, it makes me think that. And you could say the whole same thing about Omar Marmoush as well. Not at the level of Wirtz, in my opinion, but still one of the best attacking talents and goes to Man City for loads of money. It seems to me that the more you see these top quality players being linked with and then moving to Man City, it seems to me it points towards the fact that City aren't going to get a massive deduction and it's actually going to be fine. Otherwise they wouldn't be doing this, would they?
I don't have anything to add.
Yeah,
but no one really knows what's going on the charges thing, to the point that I read an article a couple of days ago where a sports liar said, well, it seems like it's a score draw. What does that mean?
Yeah. No one says that in court.
It's a trial of two halves.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll never find out.
They do generate an enormous amount of money now, don't they? Because of the status they've managed to get themselves into. So,
but that's nothing to do with historic charges, though.
No, sure it's not. But what I mean is that going back to the idea of carrying on as they were, I think it's a bit different now in terms
No,
of...
but it's not a bit different from the lens I'm viewing it, which is the fact that even if Man City get a 50-point deduction, or a 60-point, the point being that Florian Wirtz may well be in a position where he's only playing in the Premier League for one season.
You're looking at it from Wirtz's point of view.
In a situation where you can't ever get out of the relegation zone. It's weird.
He's not looking at it Man City's point of view. Man City's point of view, it makes total sense. It would be almost an admission of guilt if they go, we won't sign him in case we're found guilty. You're thinking, why is Wirtz... And maybe that's why this, I mean, from Bayer Leverkusen's point of view, they're just thinking, okay, he's going to go. Let's try and get as much money
as we can
as possible. But that is odd itself, because Bayer Leverkusen would want 125 million if they want to sell, if they sell him to Bayern Munich. But of course, if he goes to Man City, then you're not strengthening a rival. So maybe they would prefer him to go to Man City because he's not in the league anymore. But of course, it's just a strange old situation.
Well, I think they're at the point, though, aren't they, where they're probably going to lose a few players this summer. They're probably going to lose Jonathan Tah to Bayern on a free, which is an absolute sickener because you're going to struggle to get a replacement for free. Frimpong will probably go as well, as we'll come on to.
Yeah.
And, that they've managed to kind of hold some of that team together, but after that wondrous season they've had, the vultures are going to circle now. So it's important that they get as much money as they can.
They did well.
The rebuild is imminent.
They did well to keep them this season, of course. But Frimpong, apparently Liverpool are close to sealing a deal for him.
Treble winner at Celtic.
Yes,
under
indeed,
Neil Lennon.
Yes, indeed.
Back in the COVID season, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a good replacement for Trent.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good replacement for Trent, and I think it's important for them to have good. Competition for places. If you're reading the back pages over your croissant this morning and you're Connor Bradley, you're probably a bit upset about that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's just part of being at a massive club, and I think part of the Connor Bradley's been kind of sucked into this whole Trent Alexander-Arnold narrative to an extent by the fans as well, who are all singing his name in the game against Arsenal, and people are expecting him to be, the heir to what Alexander-Arnold's done. And part of the reason for that, of course, is because they. Understandably, I know Conor Bradley's Northern Irish, but they understandably want a kind of local homegrown player to replace Trent because that kind of makes them feel better. And I totally understand that. I think if you bring in a big name player who's obviously very highly rated and's had a brilliant career so far, just to replace him, I guess I just feel a bit sorry for Bradley, who's not done anything wrong.
I mean, Bradley's 21, and it's a big ask for him to be really the only right back at the club.
The only other option would be Joe Gomez, who's had his injury problem.
Yeah,
I get that. So you need cover.
Bearing in mind, you're thinking that they want to be firing on all fronts next season. They're thinking, right, push for the title. We'll push for the Champions League, all the rest of it. For a guy who, I mean, the age, I'm not that fit. There's been other 21-year-olds who have had, amazing times. They know him physically and all the rest of what his capabilities are. Bradley will have his chance. I mean, he's proved that time and time again. But I think you need a decent right back. And if the release clause, which is reportedly set around 29, sort of 30 million pounds, it's not that much for a very, very good player
for him.
Yeah, exactly. So it kind of makes sense, really. Staying with Liverpool things, Arne Slot was spotted in Ibiza this week. Did you see this, gentleman?
Yeah. Did see it, yeah.
He was serenaded to a private DJ set with the song "We Are the Champions" by Queen.
That's quite weird. The whole point of a DJ is to play music for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Private DJ set. So it was just Arne Slot and a DJ.
No, there were people all around.
Good.
A lot of women not wearing very much,
Right.
holding up cards that spelled out champions.
Okay.
And a lot of people circling around Arne Slot. And what
including
I found,
EastEnders actor
Dean Gaffney included.
Gaffer's still there.
Gaffers was there.
I don't think Gaffney's ever left that club since the first time he got there. I think he just
cannot
lives there now.
believe Gaffers is there.
What about Wellard the dog? Is he still there?
I've got some sad news about that, but we'll talk about that later.
Right, he's in Dubai. He's gone to Dubai with the players.
Sure. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Don't want to bum the listeners out. But what I was going to say is, around all this very, very Wayne Lineker coded chaos, Arne Slot still looks really calm and dignified.
He looks exactly
which is a
the
hell
same.
of an achievement.
He looks exactly the same standing there in a white t-shirt in Ocean Club Ibiza than he does when he's managing.
At one point, Wayne Lineker gave him a kiss on the cheek.
I sort of heard that.
Yeah. He got away lightly there, didn't he?
My friend has an older sister, and years ago, he was in the family home sleeping, and his sister came home from a night out with a bunch of people, and it was her. And when he went downstairs to see what was happening, it was her friend, Dean Gaffney, and Sanjay from EastEnders.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my Dean Gaffney story. I don't know what happened.
I was going to say I don't want to know anymore.
No, I don't think any of us do, but I wanted to let you know that did actually happen.
Anyway, let's get back to Wayne Lineker.
Wayne Lineker
where things do happen.
Let's get back to Wayne Lineker.
Yeah,
A new low.
I think that thing you're talking about where the girls come out doing, so that's very much a Wayne Lineker Ocean Club Ibiza thing. Like
Very much so.
He entertains celebrities in his club. He puts on a little special thing for them. Who can forget the there was a legendary performance for something like the end of World War II or the end of COVID or something like that.
What was it?
They're all dressed up in like, I think it was, it was the Queen's death.
Yes.
It was the Queen's death.
Yes.
They all dressed up as beef eaters, didn't they?
Yes.
Or not beef eaters, the one with the bear skin hats.
The end
but
of
they were in
World War II.
bikinis.
Like the
Yeah, something like
Queen's
that.
the end of World
Wayne
War
Lineker
II.
probably remembers the end of World War II.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Distastefully done.
Yeah,
for Her Majesty.
Yeah, just don't get involved.
No, exactly.
I mean,
If you're gonna do
it was
properly-
beef eaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a little I don't know, marker or some sort of celebration for the Royals, then do what Ray Parlour did and have a Jaeger bomb for Her Majesty. Okay.
Well, Garrett, Wayne could have done. The Queen's favourite drink was a gin and tonic. I don't know if it was, but say it was.
Yeah.
Gin and tonic for everyone in the house today.
Yeah. Don't pour it on that lady, Wayne.
Load of corgis running through. That'd be lovely.
It would be lovely.
I'm disappointed. Is there part of you that's disappointed Arne Slot was even there?
It's not surprising.
But there are different parts to Ibiza, aren't there? And I appreciate he's at the worst bit.
I was about to say, he was there.
I don't know, maybe he was just making an appearance.
Maybe he doesn't know who he is and he was just told, this is a good place. They'll, I don't know.
They'll look after you. Really.
I prefer the narrative that he knows exactly who he is and he's just sorted it out.
Yes.
Maybe part of him is just like, I need to see this firsthand.
I suspect the PR story is that Arne Slot was on a holiday. Wayne Lineker has used his PR firm to move heaven and earth to pay for Arne Slot to be there, giving him all the drinks he wants, all the rest of it, and Arne Slot's just gone. Yeah, fine, it's a free night out. Fine by me.